Welcome back to Focal Point, AFR Talk. Great to have you in the conversation. 888-589-8840. A couple of quick updates just before we go back to the phones. Got some new heroes in the cultural landscape. A school board in Ohio. They say they're going to leave a portrait of Jesus hanging right where it's hung since 1947 because it is of historical significance. Good for them. That's what we need. We need people with that kind of backbone that just are not going to be bullied into submission by these Christophobic bigots at the Freedom From Religion Foundation. Freedom From Religion Foundation said Wednesday that it would continue to fight an Ohio school board that said it would not remove a large portrait of Jesus that has been inside a middle school since 1947. The staff attorney for the Freedom From Religion Foundation said this: there's really no gray area here. And he's exactly right. There is no gray area here because the First Amendment prohibits the government from interfering with the free exercise of religion. If this school district wants to have a portrait of Jesus hanging in their school and they want to leave it there, they've got every right to do it. It's not the government's business. This is the free exercise of religion, the concept apparently with which Freedom From Religion Foundation is completely unfamiliar. During a school board meeting Tuesday night that drew a crowd of 300 people, Superintendent Phil Howard said the painting has historical significance and will stay put. Good on them. And you're aware, of course, that Hobby Lobby, they had to renew their health insurance January 1. So right now they are racking up potential fines of $1.3 million a day. And remember, they were turned down by a federal court, said you don't get an exemption on this. You don't have constitutional rights. The First Amendment is meaningless. When you walk through the door of your business, the First Amendment, the Constitution, it doesn't count for anything. You have no constitutional rights as an American once you walk through the door of your business. That's what this federal court said. And again, Constitution prohibits that. Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. This is exactly what Obamacare has done. It is a law passed by Congress that prohibits the free exercise of religion. Flatly, egregiously immoral, wrong, and unconstitutional. And there is some good news on that front. 13 for-profit companies have received rulings from federal judges and have received relief. 10 of these companies have received relief from the abortifacient mandate. 3 companies, including Hobby Lobby, have been denied relief. So that case obviously is going to make its way, I believe, to the Supreme Court. But Hobby Lobby's got 13,000 employees. So if the fine is $100 a day for defying this order, they're racking up $1.3 million a day. So good for Hobby Lobby. Let's keep them in our prayers and in our support. And some good news here. Boy Scouts, there's a review board in California that tried to give an Eagle Scout award to an open homosexual. Remember, the Boy Scouts have a rule. You cannot participate as a scout or as a leader if you are involved in homosexual behavior. It's one of the moral standards that's been a part of this organization since day one. And this student came out as a homosexual this fall, so he admitted it. He acknowledged it. He wasn't outed. He outed himself and then wanted to become an Eagle Scout. And this review board voted unanimously that, yes, you ought to get the Eagle Scout Award, but the staff executive of his local Boy Scout organization said no. And the national organization, Boy Scouts of America, their spokesman, Duran Smith, said that a review board, it's a volunteer review board, does not have the authority to act on behalf of the regional council, and that this individual does not meet the Scouts membership criteria. So the Boy Scouts are not going to let this local review board push them off message. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Justin in Kosciuszko, Mississippi. Justin, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. It's just I'm tired of it raining.
Yeah,
but,
you and me both.
The piece that Channel 4 did on you, if you're a secular, they would have said, "Oh, they nailed Brian Fisher in the ground here and hard." But from my perspective, I think they did well considering they're not from here, and it's kind of sad that they see you as anti against these people just because of what they are. as Christians, we love them all. We just want them to come to the light.
Sure. And we are for them. That's why we are against behavior that is self-destructive, because we love people. We want the best for people. We do not want them involved in lifestyle choices that are going to wreck their health, shorten their lives, destroy their families. We do not want that for anybody. We are for people, and that's why we must be against the behaviors that will destroy them. I remember one of my church heroes, Athanasius. I've told this story before, and you'll hear it again. One of my heroes, because he said at one point he was the only one standing for Orthodox Christianity in the 4th century. And one of his disciples said, "But Athanasius, the whole world is against you." And Athanasius said, "Well, then Athanasius is against the whole world." And one of his mottos was against the world, for the world. In other words, it says, I am for the world. I want them to come into the light. I want them to come into the truth. I want them to know God. And therefore, I have to be against the values that keep people from getting to that place. So I appreciate that, Justin. Anything else you want to add?
One more thing. I'd stay out of fairway bunkers for a while.
Yeah, that was pretty ugly. You know, I dropped another ball in that bunker, and I hit a clean, crisp shot right on the green, hit the green in regulation right out of the bunker, but they didn't want to show that shot. There we go. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Let's go. Thanks, Justin. I appreciate it. Let's go to Paul in Dallas, Texas. Paul, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Yes, I was listening to the piece from Channel 4, and a couple observations I had. When he was giving examples of what you were talking about, especially about the press or the reports of servicemen not being served in a convenience store in Texas, his only argument was, gee, that's not Sharia law. I can't remember exactly what his statement was. That's not too convincing to me, because if you were a Muslim who believed that America is attacking Muslims, unfairly internationally, I'm sure that to see the same soldier in a uniform, you consider them the enemy. But that aside,
well, and I've never said it's legal Sharia. I said it's de facto Sharia. It's the implementation of Sharia policies. I mean, that is Sharia law in practice, de facto Sharia in a convenience store. So
good clarification. But I guess my main point is that he made no comment as to the veracity of whether that had actually occurred or not, and I'm sure his staff could have looked that up. He made no comment there, while later he was talking about how you were just, quote, recycling Internet reports. And then his second comment was on the Marines being ordered not to carry live ammunition, and his only research into that was to get a denial from the State Department.
Right, which is meaningless. And that turns out that was absolutely true. That was a verified deal. So he was the one that had the facts wrong on that.
Correct. And then I guess to top it off, when he's saying two things about his ethics came up. One is, it seemed that his number one value was if you say anything that you could perceive somebody would be offended by. That seemed to be his number one value. And I really found amusing his lament at the very end about, well, all this kind of thing that Brian Fisher is doing, the real big negative effect is that the faith and confidence of people in the United States over other media sources is falling. It's not falling because you're recycling falsehood. It's falling because you point out things that the other media sources hide or don't ever want to report on.
That's a good observation, Paul. If the media was doing its job, there would be no place for Focal Point. Nobody would need it. Nobody would listen to it because nobody would need to. They would be getting the truth from conventional media sources, but they don't, and that's why a talk show like Focal Point and Alternative Talk Radio even come into being. All right, well, listen, I appreciate that, Paul. And his point about shouldn't say it if it offends people. Well, Krishnan, what you said about me, it offends me. It hurts my feelings. You shouldn't say that. Bad on you, Krishnan, for violating your own standard. Just having some fun with him there. But obviously, see, he's contradicted his own standard. You're not supposed to say anything if somebody's feelings could be hurt. Well, Krishnan, you hurt my feelings. You might have hurt the feelings of, he didn't hurt my feelings because I expected it, but just making an argument here. If I was offended, and I could have been offended, and maybe I should have been offended by some of the things that he said, well, then he shouldn't have said them by his own standards. So they are happy to impose their view of morality, their standards on everybody else, but they do not want to live up to them themselves. And I found him a perfectly delightful individual, by the way. I enjoyed all my conversations with him, all my time with him. Let's go to Teresa in, I'm not sure how you say the name of your hometown, Teresa. Pronounce that for me.
It's Kitchener.
Kitchener. All right, Kitchener, Arkansas. What's on your mind?
I was watching something yesterday, and I was reading on YouTube and on Twitter. And anyhow, I was wondering if you knew anything about this 70-plus thousand square foot single-family home structure that's going up in Ozark, Missouri.
I don't know anything about that.
Okay, well, supposedly it's a reinforced kind of building, and it's a real hush-hush thing that the workers aren't allowed to speak about it. And it's not terribly far from Mountain View, Arkansas. And they were talking about how in the last few years there have been 20-plus banks that have gone up in this little community of 2,600 people.
What's the name of the community?
That one's Mountain View. Mountain View, Arkansas.
And where's that home going up that you were talking about?
It's in Ozark, Missouri.
Ozark, Missouri. And so they're saying a lot of banks are going into these places? Like there's...
Yeah, it's one bank that services like 52 people.
Okay, so
population.
So what do you think is hinky about all of that? What would the concern be with all that?
I was just wondering why someone would go to that much trouble to put in something so large, and it also is sitting on a series of caves and tunnels that have been built underneath it, large enough to drive like semi-trucks side by side through.
Huh. All right. Well, that's the first I've heard of any of that. We'll poke around and see if we can come up with anything on that, Teresa.
Great.
All right. Listen, thank you for the call. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling in. You're listening to Focal Point on AFR Talk. We'll be right back after the news. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. You are listening to Focal Point on the American Family Radio Talk Network. Be right back after the news.